Hi, everyone. My name is Beth Pensabene from Beachway Therapy Center, and I'm here speaking with Rachel. Rachel lives in Florida. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Of course.
We were excited to talk to Rachel because she is a very, very special alumni for us. She was with us a few years ago, just for a short period of time. But since that time, she's consistently showing up for our community every month by going to alumni meetings and supporting our community. And it's such a pleasure to have you on here because I've heard so many wonderful things about you from everybody. And really a truly special story. She had a troubled past and was adopted and had a traumatic event happen to her at a very young age. And from that time, as we chatted about, you had addiction issues. But recently, just even a few years ago, about actually 2 years ago, you found yourself at Beachway and was able to go through the trauma program. And
Mhm.
in that short amount of time, you were able to, find out why you were having these addiction issues and find a way to come out the other side. Um, and the best part of the story is how you've been able to give back since that time. So I'm going to let you fill in. I want to hear a little bit about the tools that you learned, as well as about the generational trauma that you experienced as well, because there are other people out there listening that have experienced the same.
Yeah, of course. First of all, I just want to thank you for having me on today. Any way that I can help is what my mindset is these days. I'm just here to help. I think the most important tool that recovery in general has taught me is that my first instinct is not the best. It's gotten me into situations that landed me in treatment several times in jail. You know, just not in great situations. And let me just get it straight. The fact that I have had those experiences is not what makes me an addict, right? What makes me an addict is that when I start I can't stop, and when I stop I can't stay stopped. The circumstances are different. So with that being said, the pause for sure has been the most important tool for me. Now, what that looks like is in any given situation, I need to take a second before I figure out what my impetus is for responding to someone. I learned on the trauma track rather that a reaction is a trauma response, and a response is human communication and understanding on a positive level. And so I implement that, in my daily life all the time, regardless of the situation. And so that allows me to show up the way that I want to show up today. When you have been using and numbing yourself for years on end, when you finally come to find out who you truly are, it's important to honor that. And I
Mm.
think that pause allows for my true self to shine through. It's like, okay, how do we want to show up today? Like, sure, I would be happy to do that, or no, which is a complete sentence, by the way. No, I'm not able to do that right now. Can we schedule something another time? And I didn't know that I was a person. I didn't know that I mattered. And so I didn't know that I had the ability to speak up for myself, whether that be responding with a yes or no, despite the
Mhm.
circumstances. I think
So
some
let
other tools, sorry, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, let's back up a little bit.
Sure.
So you were sharing with me that you were neglected as a child,
Mhm.
and part of that led into your addiction. And that was something that you believe that your adoptive mother also had as a child, that she was actually felt the same neglect and was then portraying that on you. I think it's interesting to see that somebody with generational cycle of trauma, which you experienced, is now able to pause, redirect, and also be able to do the same for other people. It's almost like you're doing not just like a 180, but you're doing like a 360. You're not only just turning back what happened to you, but you're actually then making sure that it's not happening to other people.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that? Because I do find that, when you have a traumatic event, if you don't actually learn the tools to handle it, this is from what I hear from other people, you may not be able to then look at it through the lens that you're looking it through. So, for you, it probably comes as like at this point in your life, it probably comes as almost like firsthand. But for so many people out there, they don't see how they can take something that they went through that was so traumatic and be able to turn that into something that would be positive for somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, I just want to speak to the ripple effect, right?
Mhm.
Since I didn't know that I mattered, I didn't know that my actions affected other people, whether it was just, an acquaintance or a loved one, whatever the circumstances. Like the way that I interact with somebody is going to affect them in one way or another.
Mhm.
If I hold the door open for somebody at the store, they're going to say, "Well, that was really nice. Maybe I should do something nice for somebody else." And that's a ripple effect, right? If I am there for somebody, they're going to feel that as love and support by my actions. And so it wasn't until I got sober and started really digging into what made me tick that I understood that there was, in fact, this ripple effect. And in accordance with that, I didn't know that my experiences are not unique to me, right?
Mhm.
Like I said before, like the circumstances and situations that every person that comes into treatment of one kind or another or is in recovery, they're all going to be different, but the feelings are the same.
Mhm.
Fear, no matter how I got there, right? And sadness is sadness. Of course, there are different degrees. Of course, there's different levels of grief, but every human experiences that the same.
Mhm.
And so I didn't, it wasn't until I really started feeling confident in myself um, that I realized that my experiences were shared experiences, that my feelings were shared feelings. And I was tired of keeping my mouth shut. I was tired of not feeling like I was worthy of speaking up for myself, which
Mhm.
is how I felt, like, felt on a daily basis. And that in itself is traumatic.
Yeah.
And so once I started to find myself, I really started planting my feet, and I made a solemn oath to myself that I wanted to help others who were in pain like I was, and let people know that regardless of what may or may not have happened, because trauma is both, right? It's what
Mhm.
happened to me and also what didn't happen for me.
Correct. Yeah.
Regardless of all those things, I
Mhm.
get to choose how I show up today. I get to choose how people respond to me and react to me.
Mhm.
And I have found that the best way to help somebody else is by showing up
Mhm.
and giving them your time. I do a lot of sponsoring, and time is the one thing you can never get back. And so when I'm giving myself really to others, I actually start to feel love for myself, and then in turn
Mhm.
love for them. And then again, that ripple effect, that domino effect of
Mhm.
just love, tolerance, positivity, and genuine support. Like, we live in a world where everything is very compartmentalized. It's like, oh, I'm this, but I'm not that. You
Mhm.
do this, but I don't do that. And I find that a lot in recovery, leading the alumni meetings. There are people that are in recovery just for mental health. There are
Mhm.
people that are just in recovery for substance abuse. And there are people like me who fall under both categories for mental health and substance abuse. And what I always try to start the meeting off with is, it doesn't matter what you're here for. If you're in these seats like I was, it's because things are not going well, and because I have a complete inability to take good care of myself. Um, and that's really what it comes down to. The way that I choose to deal with those difficult emotions is going to look different from how you handle difficult emotions. That doesn't mean that we're separate. That actually unifies us.
Mhm.
And the opposite of addiction and the opposite of isolation is community. And so I owe a lot of my recovery to the wonderful people that I have, extended my hand to, that have in turn extended their hand to me,
Mhm.
and started to build this network of people that truly care about me, that don't want anything from me other than my love and friendship. And that's not something that I knew was actually humanly possible. I thought every relationship on earth, because of my past, I thought
Right.
that it was all transactional, you know. Um, I didn't know that there was a way to live that supported my best interests, my goals. I didn't know that I could have goals. I thought for somebody like me that was just doomed to fail and to be stuck in a cycle of misery, I didn't know that beauty and love and goals and achievements and success were available to me.
It's interesting because you had started this problem or the real problems in addiction even as early as age 12. Is that what you told me? Age
Hmm.
12?
Hmm.
And you were sober now 2 years ago. So you have your
Hmm.
2 year anniversary coming up.
I
That's
do.
a that's a long, long time, right?
It is.
And
Yeah.
and that's a long time. And what I'm saying is that you like the light that comes from you now is from the tools that you receive, but also from the aftercare that you've been given yourself. You have to do that for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to show up for that aftercare. Do you feel that's the real difference for you is the aftercare actions that you took?
100,000%.
Mhm.
First of all, as many times as I've been to treatment, I never wanted to be treated. I think that's the first and foremost difference between this time around and all the other times around. I've been at this for
Mhm.
26 years straight. Um, and I never wanted the help. This time I
Mhm.
went in with the thought of, I know nothing, teach me everything.
Mhm.
When I remain teachable, I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place, just in life in general, but especially in recovery. And so, with
Mhm.
that being said, that's what my surrender looked like. I was like,
Mhm.
I actually don't know. And that's okay.
Mhm.
So let the other people that know what they're doing guide me. And I let them. For the first time in my life, I actually let other people guide me. My entire
Mhm.
life I had retaliated against authority on every level imaginable. And it just got me to this place of misery. And so once I started opening up and letting those barriers between other people and I down, again, the idea of
Mhm.
community and that we're
Mhm.
all in this together, I started to embrace that.
Mhm.
And so when I was given suggestions, I took them.
Mhm.
I not only took them, but I ran with them and I asked questions when I didn't know.
Mhm.
I've come to learn that there are no stupid questions, there are only stupid answers. Like, and I edited myself a lot for fear of other people's opinions of me.
Mhm.
Doesn't work, doesn't get me anywhere. So,
Mhm.
in accordance with that, when I was given the suggestion to stay at sober living for 6 months, my immediate thought was, wow, that's a really long time. But it's not in the grand scheme of things. And in reality, it went by like that. It went by
Mhm.
like that. And at that 6 month mark, I had a thought. And we already discussed how my first thought is like not the best thought to act on.
Right.
And I noticed that thought, which was, hey, it's, the 6 month mark. Maybe it's time to move out of halfway. And then my recovered self stepped in and said, why stop now? This is working for you. This is the only thing
Mm.
that has ever worked for you. You have a full time job, you're showing up to life, you're giving back, you're helping other women and single mothers, et cetera, et cetera. Keep doing it. Stay still.
Mhm.
Enjoy the moment. This is what recovery is learning that pause, learning that stillness
Mhm.
is optimal and key for success in any way, you want to view it. And today, my definition of success is happiness.
Mhm.
Before, it was like having a yacht and driving, a Lamborghini and like all of these material things.
Mhm.
And at about that 6 month mark, I had already been through, a 12-step program and was working that actively. And I started to realize that all I ever wanted was happiness and love and acceptance. And really, that's all any of us truly want. And that the material things would come in time, and material things are great. But I have to stay stable and happy and engaged, and within a community that understands me, in order for any of
Mhm.
that peace, that internal peace, serenity, and true, genuine happiness to be achieved or sustained
Mhm.
on any
I
level.
mean, you are the true testament of that. I mean, like I said, everybody I talk to in Florida tells me about you at the meetings, how you are so helpful, how you really do fill other people's cups every single time. And I know the whole community appreciates that. For people that aren't part of our alumni community who are watching this, do you have any words of wisdom for them if they're coming out of sober living or they're sober for the first time and they're trying to figure out aftercare planning on their own? Do you have any tips for them on where they should go and what they should do first?
First of all, I advocated for myself. And so whether that meant discussing an aftercare plan with my primary therapist or with my case manager, whatever that looks like, whatever supports a therapist, whatever that looks like,
Mhm.
um, sort of bounce some ideas off of people. Because a lot of people in this field, whether they're therapists or, practitioners at a treatment center, whatever that looks like, have connections
Mhm.
and can guide me. And so, as long as I keep an open mind and reach out for help, I should have prefaced it with this: I have to want the help, right?
Yeah, of
I
course.
have
Yeah.
to understand that being in treatment is all well and good, but it's also a bubble. It's a protective bubble, which served its purpose really, really well. But the real work starts when I get out. And so I have to make a continued commitment to myself that recovery is what I genuinely want. And then if that is the decision that I make, then a lot of doors open for me, right? I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to continue therapy. I'm not afraid to investigate sober livings on my own. And sometimes that's as simple as women's sober living in Berkeley, California, or wherever it
Mhm.
is. Just make sure that you're not calling a sponsored ad. I do work at a treatment center, and we get a lot of calls from
Okay.
people being like, "Oh, I just clicked a sponsor." Make sure the numbers that you're calling have local area codes, and
Okay.
that you're investigating a couple different places so that you make the best informed decision for yourself. Um, like Beth said, nobody's going to do this for me.
Mhm.
I have to do it myself. And so if I know that in theory, the first year of recovery is supposed to be just that, a year, and that there is a step down process to recovery in general, from detox or residential to PHP to IOP to OP, and sober living. Then I have to decide if that's what I really want, you know? Um, I think everything else really falls in line, but it was really important for me to, like I said, continue to make that decision. Like, I stayed in IOP for probably 6 months. I just, my immediate go to with my mental health and with my substance abuse history was everything yesterday, fast,
Mhm.
now. And that didn't get me anywhere good. It didn't get me anywhere I wanted to be. And so I've learned to do the exact opposite. And so if my idea is, hey, I'm getting out of treatment, I'm going to go home, but I don't want to do an IOP, I strongly encourage you to investigate your motivation
Mm,
behind why you're making that decision. Every time that I did that, I came to understand that my motives were that I wasn't ready.
mhm.
And if not, that's okay. You can always try again. But if you really want recovery, talk to people. I guess that's my best advice that I
I
have.
think that's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's really helpful for people who are looking for advice on how to handle themselves when they come out of treatment. What's the best course of action? I know you also are very active in AA meetings and that you are a sponsee and sponsor. And so I know that has helped you as well. And we really do appreciate all the feedback.
Yeah, of course. I meant to add on to the idea of taking suggestions, and what worked for me is that the treatment center that I went to, they suggested 6 months. And like I said, once I hit that 6 month mark, I was like, maybe it's time to leave. I
Right.
ended up staying in sober living for a year and a half. A year and a half. And it's because I had that moment where I said, maybe it's time to move out. And like I said, my recovered self kicked in.
Hmm.
And I said, what is my motivation? Why would I do that? Give myself time to practice the tools, to feel the acceptance, to be at peace, to learn how to sit with myself, to learn how to be a good friend, daughter, mother, whatever it is, in a safe environment that I'm held accountable to. So that
Hmm.
when the day arrives, when I'm no longer in sober living, not only do I have a wonderful network of other women that are sharing my same experience in the same house that I'm in, that I can
Hmm.
continue a relationship with, but I also have more courage
Hmm.
to start introducing myself to other people. It was really important for me to find my voice. And that started off as small as talking to my roommates, like literally,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know,
Having that community of people.
100%, a hundred
Well,
percent.
thank you so much, Rachel. We really appreciate your time today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful. And everybody out there, I don't know you personally. I don't need to. There is so much love in the recovery community for people that are hurting. I strongly encourage you to reach out to anyone. You know,
Mhm.
we're all here to help, and there is something for everyone. There's a 12-step meeting for everyone. And I just want to emphasize the fact that I know people that are not addicts and don't have mental health issues that actually work 12 step programs just because it's a good way to live.
Mm, that's so interesting. That's a
It's
great
been,
tip.
it's been really important for me to understand that. So, um, I have nothing but love for you guys. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We
Of
appreciate
course.
you. Have a
Take
great
good
rest of your
care.
day.
Bye.
Bye.